3 weeks. That's how long it had been since the Lenny incident. Since the candles, the chalk, the cursed match card, the doors had been rehinged, the cursed resistance bands replaced, and the dojo had gotten back to doing what it did best, pretending it wasn't one blown-out turnbuckle away from collapsing entirely. Drake, owner and reluctant babysitter-in-chief, had tried his best to move on. He even bought a new ring bell. It still rang itself sometimes. But he was choosing not to acknowledge that, and the roster, full of fresh chaos. Bang Bang Bennett, a denim-clad Southern Spitfire with a pistol finger taunt and a neck that cracked every time he blinked, was now running explosive entry Tuesdays where trainees practiced surprise run-ins on unsuspecting janitors. No one approved this, but no one could stop it either. Colton Kinnaman, lean, mean, and always wriggled with back sweat, was back from his week-long silent retreat, which he described as life-changing, but emotionally loud. He started wrestling exclusively shirtless and entered rooms like he was expecting a confetti cannon to follow. Then there was Will Chambers, the work rate wonder, part-time wrestling purist, part-time conspiracy theorist, full-time snack hoarder. Will had taken it upon himself to investigate what really happened that night with Lenny. Armed with a GoPro, a UV flashlight, and a frankly disturbing knowledge of in-ring geometry, things were mostly normal, until they weren't. It started with the chalk, fresh white markings on the mat every morning, always in the shape of a mask. Then the gear bags mysteriously moved or turned inside out. And the worst of all, Colton swore he saw something, standing in the boiler room mirror, wearing a familiar jumpsuit and glowing red lenses. "We're being dosed," Will whispered to Bennett, who was duct taping sparklers to his boots at the time. "It's the only explanation. Evil Dose is back. This is Psychology 101. "Boy, he better not be," Bennett muttered, lighting a sparkler anyway. "That masked little warlock still owes me $8 and a full tank of gas." Drake tried to ignore it. He scrubbed the chalk, replaced the gear bags, removed Dose Watch from the dojo Discord. But late that night, alone in the office, he heard the ring bell echo. No one was there, except for a single black leather glove, resting on the top rope. The dojo bleachers creaked with life as trainees filtered in for Thursday's drills. Colton Kinnaman was already stretching on the apron like a cat in a music video. Will Chambers was setting up his infrared GoPro trap in the corner, mumbling something about visual anomalies. In the South Turnbuckle quadrant, Bang Bang Bennett was late again, reportedly having super kicked a traffic cone into oncoming street traffic during his morning run. And then there was Bryson, the new kid, big upside, bright-eyed, said he'd driven across 2 states to get to the DG dojo, claimed he grew up watching backyard death matches and considered Cursed Volume 4, The Flaming Tarp Incident, the greatest tape ever recorded. He was quiet, polite, wore simple gear, no flashy colors, no gimmick name, just Bryson. Written on his kick pads and permanent marker, he showed up early, cleaned the mats, and bowed before stepping into the ring. Drake liked that. He'd seen dozens of fresh faces come through, but Bryson had an old-school focus, a calmness, which made what happened later that day all the stranger. It started when Will found a promo DVD on top of the water cooler. It wasn't labeled, just a blank disc with a single crude drawing, a half mask, half cat face. The moment he played it, the dojo TV glitched out, then flickered to life. The screen showed a dimly lit basement. A man in a torn lucha mask stood under a single swinging light tube. His voice distorted, his eyes glowing red beneath the mesh lenses. He is coming back, and this time he is not alone. It is a calling. Soon the tiger will roar. The screen glitched again, cut to black. Everyone stared at the TV. Colton looked around nervously. That was just performance art, right? Will slowly turned to Drake. "Tell me again where Evil Dose went." Before Drake could respond, the lights flickered just once. The ring bell gave a faintest ping, then silence. Drake tried to shake it off. "We've had pranksters before. Could be someone working a new character." "Then where's Bryson?" Will asked. Everyone looked around. He was gone. Not in the locker room, not in the parking lot. His bag was still there, his boots lined neatly. Under the bench, no text, no sign. He'd simply vanished. Drake walked back to the office, unease growing like mold in his gut. That night, as the dojo lights shut off, a small knock echoed from the boiler room door. Inside, in the dark, a page fluttered down from the ceiling. It was a torn piece of Evil Dose's spellbook, and written in Bryson's handwriting were the words, "I've seen the mask." The dojo's group chat had hit peak panic mode. 1 minute, it was memes and booking rumors. Next, Colton was sending blurry screenshots of what looked like a man standing on the roof. At 3 a.m. in a tiger-striped hoodie, Will Chambers posted a red string theory graphic titled Dose Doctrine, Bloodlines of the Mask, which referenced to both Lucha Libre lore and cryptid sightings. Bang Bang Bennett ignored all of it, until a tiger print glove was slid under the ring ropes mid-drill, with a note that simply read, "He speaks, I follow. You'll see him soon." Drake tried to keep things calm. "We don't know that's Bryson," he insisted, arms crossed as the roster gathered for another chaotic emergency meeting. "Could be a gimmick, a prank, hell, Colton might be doing performance art again." "That was one time," Colton snapped, "and it was legally experimental lucha ballet. Thank you." But the others weren't so sure. The next day during the ring cleanup, the sound system glitched. Music began playing, low and distorted. A warped remix of Dose's old entrance theme fused with jungle drums and heavy breathing. Then the dojo lights cut out. The projector turned on by itself. A single looping video played across the wall. A figure in a new mask, half feline, half superstar, stripes down the sides, red glow behind the lenses. He stood in the center of a jungle clearing, or was it the dojo? The footage stuttered like it couldn't decide, his voice deep and echoing, filtered through distortion. "You left the mask behind, but it found someone new. The claws are out. I am Tigre Dose. I remember the book. I remember everything." Then the screen went black again. Silence. Until Owen, who'd just walked in with a smoothie and had caught none of it, looked around and said, "Did I miss something? Or is Ronnie summoning demons again?" Later that night, Ronnie live-streamed from his candlelit closet. He leaned into his phone, sweat-drenched, whispering to his followers, "Y'all, someone or something left claw marks on my gear bag. This is not a work. This is heat from the grave. Evil Dose has a new avatar, and Bryson is gone, baby, gone." The next morning, someone found tiger stripes spray-painted on the dojo's back wall. Not in color, just like a shadow. No can, no trail, just a reminder. The mask had moved on. The dojo had started to change. Not overnight, not all at once, but something beneath the canvas now hummed. Like a bass note no one could hear, but everyone felt. The air near the boiler room was thick. The ropes were tighter than usual, taut, and twitching like they'd been stretched by someone stronger than they should have been. Will Chambers had charts, Colton had theories, Bang Bang Bennett had a baseball bat named the Kayfabe Breaker. And Drake had headaches. The Lenny kind. The pre-incident kind. But it wasn't Lenny this time. It was Tigre Dose. He'd appeared again in another transmission, this time in full gear, mask tighter, voice clearer. The dojo was built on sacrifice. The bell tolls for one, but two shall rise. I have clawed the veil. He is returning. At first, no one believed it until a tag match went wrong. Ronnie and Colton were running drills when a light cut out mid-sequence. A single bell rang, louder than before, like it came from beneath the mat. When the lights came back on, Colton was down, Ronnie was in the corner shaking, stammering. A club of shadows circling the ring, and burned into the canvas with a branding iron no one could find were the words, "Dose will rise." That night, the boiler room door slammed itself open. Smoke rolled out. Not fire, smoke. Candle smoke. Sweet cinnamon salt air filled the dojo as if someone had just completed a seance. And then they saw it. In the center of the ring stood a figure in the Tigre Dose mask. but now with a cape, and beside him, flickering into reality like a static ghost, Evil Dos. Eyes glowing red, arms folded, book in hand, and his mouth moved as Tigre Dos knelt beside him. No one heard what he said, but the lights dimmed, and across the wall, painted in blood like chalk, appeared their new moniker: Join the Shadow Club. The promo hit the dojo feed at exactly midnight, projected onto the wall during Bang Bang Bennett's poorly attended gimmick grind. Conditioning class, the footage was as crisp as it was horrifying. Tigre Dos and Evil Dos standing in a swirling vortex of black fog and cracked mirrors, each with a tag rope looped around one wrist. Their voices layered over one another like a stereo feedback. We are the Shadow Club, formed in darkness, trained in silence, born not to win, but to end. Your ropes will snap, your bells will crack, and your golden boy will fall first. Cue the footage of Owen, shirtless, glistening, and completely unaware, eating a protein bar in the locker room while practicing his entrance poses. The camera zoomed slowly on him, then glitched, then cut out. The challenge came the next morning, scrawled in blood-colored ink across the chalkboard: tag match tonight. If you lose, he's ours. No one said it out loud, but they all knew who he was. Drake rallied the dojo's remaining loyalists, Bang Bang Bennett, Colton Kinnaman, and a visibly trembling Ronnie Morton, to form a makeshift trio. No rope breaks, no pinfalls, submissions, or surrender. Standard cursed stipulations. Should we pray or cut promos, Ronnie asked. Both, Drake muttered. The match was chaos. The ring lights flickered, the mat bled mist. Tigre moved like a possessed panther, fast, feral, impossibly fluid. Evil Dos never even tagged in. He just stood in the corner, eyes glowing, hands tracing symbols in the air. Colton hit a spinning uppercut that should have ended the match, but Tigre Dos absorbed it with a hiss. Ronnie tried to leg drop Evil Dos on the apron and was immediately launched into the rafters by an unseen force. He later claimed to have seen his past, his future, and Brutus Beefcake. Bang Bang landed a fiery comeback sequence, but as he went for the hot tag, the rope slid away from him. Then it happened. Owen, watching from ringside, shirtless and yelling encouragement, suddenly screamed. A black gloved hand burst from beneath the ring, wrapped around his ankle and yanked him under. Gone. Match over. Shadow Club vanished in a storm of black fog, leaving only a scorched note behind. We require a vessel, one pure of ego, one untarnished by title belts. The sacrifice shall be made beneath the blood moon. Ronnie gasped. They're gonna virgin sacrifice Owen. That boy's never even held hands. Drake stared down at the ring, jaw tight. No more promos, no more drills. Get your gear, boys. We're going to hell. They found the entrance behind locker C4. A false panel, a trap door, a rope ladder made of old wrist tape and ring rope, knotted and soaked in something that smelled suspiciously like pyro fluid. And regret. Drake led the descent, flanked by Bang Bang Bennett, armed with his bat kayfabe breaker, Colton Kinnaman, who had fashioned a torch from streamers, confetti, and hairspray, and a bruised but determined Ronnie Morton. Each man gritted his teeth as they dropped into the dark. What lay below the dojo was odd. The sub-dojo looked like a twisted mirror of their world. Same ring, but warped. The ropes twitched, the turnbuckles bled fog, and the far end stood a massive altar, built from folding chairs, tables, and at least 3 mannequin torsos wearing unsold merchandise. In the center of the ring, glowing faintly, beneath an overhead lantern, was a massive chained-up book, its cover stitched from old lucha masks, the Book of Dos. And sitting cross-legged, behind it, grinning beneath a blackened tiger mask, was Tigre Dos. You came, he said, voice calm and eerie, just in time for the pre-show ritual. Behind him, Owen dangled upside down from a ring post, hands bound, eyes wide, muttering something about an unfinished leg day. We want him back, Drake shouted, stepping into the cursed ring. You'll have to earn him, Tigre Dos replied. With wisdom, he opened the book. It let out a growl. And then across the canvas, writing began to appear, scorched in by some unseen force, a riddle. When one mask holds two faces, and a tiger bows to none, only the fallen finisher can bring back the sun. What in the hot topic riddle hell does that mean? Ronnie whispered. Colton stared at the lines, his eyes wide. It's a prophecy. I think the fallen finisher isn't a move. Drake stepped forward, realization blooming. Like a super kick to the heart, it's a person. Bang Bang's eyes narrowed. You think it's Owen? No, Drake said. Pointing to a page Tigre Dos held in his hands, the illustration showed Evil Dos alone, holding a tattered mask in one hand and a red rope in the other. But behind him, in the shadows, another figure loomed, unmasked, grinning, holding the bell. It's me. Before they could react, Tigre Dos slammed the book shut. The ring ropes rose like snakes, and Evil Dos stepped forward from the fog, eyes glowing. The prophecy is written, he said, voice like two voices layered into one, and the sacrifice begins. The ritual had begun. Far beneath the dojo, beneath the ring, the mats, and even the faded respect the kayfabe sign, the sub-dojo twisted with candlelight and static. The air was thick, damp, and pulsing with unnatural heat. Owen hung upside down above the center of the ring like an offering on a rusted meat hook. Sweat dripped from his wild, beautiful hair. His wrists were bound with ring tape, scorched black at the ends. Beneath him, Tigre Dos prowled in the slow circles, claws dragging lines into the cursed canvas. His mask glowed faintly in the dim light, tiger-striped, fang-edged, almost regal. At the far corner stood Evil Dos, arms crossed, unmoving, like a priest in waiting. The others, Drake, Ronnie, Colton, and Bang Bang Bennett, watched helplessly from the apron as the ropes coiled like tendrils and the ring posts bled chalk symbols. But far above in the dojo office, Will Chambers had stayed behind. He wasn't a fighter, he was a watcher. And the truth was waiting in the shadows of the old match cards, archived tapes, and dusty filing cabinets that hadn't been opened since the dojo switched from VCRs to live streams. He had found it, a promotional flyer from years ago, two unknowns, unmasked, staring into a backyard lens like they were about to change the world. One was clearly a young, overly confident Owen. The other, a wiry, awkward kid with fire in his eyes. The future, Owen and Bryson, tag partners for life. Will flipped the page, a scribbled note on the back. Cut Bryson from showcase, replace with Owen, solo push. He tests better. It was signed not by Drake, but by a forgotten producer long gone. Holy shit, Will whispered, eyes wide. He didn't just get left behind, he got erased. In the sub-dojo, Tigre Dos stopped pacing. His voice was low, quiet, almost mournful. You said we were a team. Owen, dazed and upside down, blinked in confusion. I what? What are you talking about? I don't even... Wait. You said we'd debut together, Tigre continued. Said we'd be the apex pair. I gave you my finisher. I helped you cut your first promo. I let you live in my mom's garage for 3 months. Oh no, Owen muttered, the memory crashing in like a missed moonsault. Bryson? Tigre Dos's head lifted slowly. I waited outside that building for hours. You never came out. You never answered your phone. And the next time I saw you, he pointed one clawed finger at Owen's chest. You were on a poster, alone, with my mask on the floor beneath your boots. Silence. Even Evil Dos turned, slightly as if hearing this story for the first time himself. Owen twisted in his blindings. Dude, I thought you ghosted. I thought you left town after your tryout. I didn't know they cut you, I swear. Tigre Dos's voice cracked beneath the growl. No, Owen, you didn't look. The ropes hissed tighter. Evil Dos stepped forward, placing one black gloved hand on Tigre's shoulder. This one's understood pain, he said. That's why he found me. That's why he is worthy. You? You only understood the crowd. The mirror. A distant crackle came from Drake's hip. Will's voice, sharp with urgency. Drake! It wasn't Owen. He didn't know. The brass cut Bryson to push him. It was the system. Dose didn't find a follower. He found a victim. Tigre Dose twitched, just for a moment, like something behind the mask was struggling to breathe. Drake stepped through the ropes slowly. You don't have to do this, he said. Bryson, listen. I've been where you are, forgotten, overshadowed, but he's not your enemy. Tigre Dose turned. He was my brother. And then he raised his claws. The sacrifice was moments away. The air in the sub-dojo turned black. Not just dark, black. Like light had been choked out of the room. The candles along the mat sputtered and died, one by one as the ritual neared its climax. Tigre Dose stood beneath Owen, arms raised, claws dripping with ceremonial wax and blood from a self-inflicted cut across his palm. Evil Dose loomed behind him, the Book of Dose floating now, its pages turning on their own, faster and faster. Above them, Owen dangled helplessly, face pale, breathing quick. Please, man, Owen gasped, straining against the tape. We were kids, stupid, you can let this go. Tigre Dose faltered. Just for a second, his hands trembled. The claw lowered an inch. Behind the mask, Bryson remembered training late with Owen in an old barn ring, driving to shows that never booked him, cutting fake promos in gas station mirrors. Promises of a tag team gold or bust, but then Evil Dose whispered, low and serpentine, the gimmick lives when the heart dies. Do it, or be forgotten again. Tigre's back straightened. He looked up and he drove his clawed hand into Owen's chest. Not with rage, with purpose. The ring exploded in red light. Owen screamed high, broken, then cut short like a feed going dead. Ronnie, Colton, Bang Bang Bennett, and Drake were thrown back by a shockwave of cursed energy that cracked the apron and split the ropes. In the center of the ring, Owen's body slumped, his eyes fluttered, and then he stood. Too slowly, too smoothly. A crooked smile stretched across his face, and in a voice that was Owen's, but wrong, he said, Where's my belt? Drake's face drained of color. Lenny? The figure, Lenny now possessing Owen's body, rolled his neck until it popped like a knuckle. Damn right, he said, licking his teeth. You all left me in the cold, but your golden boy had just enough spirit left in him, and now, he turned to Tigre Dose, my disciple did very well. Tigre knelt, exhausted, conflicted, but obedient. Evil Dose stood tall, raising the book. The shadows around the sub-dojo bent, peeled back like curtains. A new sigil burned into the mat. The Shadow Club presents Lenny Reborn. Ronnie scrambled to his feet. That's not Owen. That's Lenny in a six-pack. Bang Bang clenched his fist. We getting our boy back or what? Colton Pale stared at Lenny. He's stronger. Like has abs on his abs stronger. Drake didn't speak. He stared at his former student, now something else entirely. His hand slid behind his back and reached into his own gear bag for the one thing he swore he'd never use again. The original mask. The one he wore when he was known as Death Row. The flyer hit the town like a steel chair to the face. Black background, red lettering that seemed to bleed when you looked at it too long. A cracked bell in the center. A tagline scrawled across the bottom in jagged ink. Shadow Club, one night only. No venue listed, no ticket link, just a set of coordinates and a time. Midnight. Below it, the match card. Lenny, in the body of Owen, versus Death Row. In a possession match. Soul versus mask. Colton nearly choked when he read it. Ronnie passed right out. Bang Bang Bennett spit his gum out and said, Well, hell, let's get weird. They followed the coordinates to an abandoned roller rink 3 miles outside of town. The marquee had been changed. Shadow Club presents The Final Fall. Inside, everything had changed. A ring stood in the middle of a rink floor. Spectators stood shoulder to shoulder, some alive, others probably not. Hooded figures sold bootleg merch and hot dogs shaped like demon horns. The lighting rig was made of bones, literal bones, not Party City bones, the real thing. And at the top of the ramp, beneath a tattered banner that read, The Blood Moon Booking Company, stood Evil Dose. Tonight, he announced, the mask returns to the man, and the man is ours. Owen/Lenny walked out in new gear, black and gold, with a shredded cape made of Owen's old ring jacket. His eyes glowed crimson. He carried the Book of Dose under one arm, and he chewed gum like it was laced with vengeance. Then the lights cut. A spotlight hit the far wall. Smoke, music. Drake emerged wearing his long-forgotten mask, black, silver trim, and a lightning bolt scar across one eye. Death row. The crowd erupted, half in cheers, half in screams. "I buried this gimmick 10 years ago," Drake said, voice deep and thunderous as he paced the ring, "but I have to resurrect my worst self to save my best student." He stopped at the apron. Well, the one who pays on time. "Then I'll burn the whole damn graveyard to the ground." The bell rang, and chaos began. Death row launched first. Precision strikes, old-school chain wrestling, sharpened by fury. Lenny, in Owen's body, laughed. The whole time, ducking, weaving, countering, with moves Owen never learned and Lenny never should have remembered. They slammed into each other like fate made flesh. Rope breaks didn't work. The mat trembled under their boots. Outside the ring, Tigre Dos paced like a caged animal, clearly torn between loyalty and regret. Evil Dos shouted incantations from the ramp, his voice shaking the ropes. And above it all, the crowd chanted, "Mask or soul. Mask or soul." Then came the turning point. Drake hit the death cutter. Lenny kicked out at one. But his smile faded. Something inside Owen twitched. His fingers curled. His mouth opened like he wanted to scream, but no sound came. Drake saw it. The mask may have been Lenny's now, but the body remembered Owen. "You're still in there," Drake whispered, dragging Lenny to his knees. Lenny grinned through Owen's mouth. "Not for long." The match came to a halt with both men lying flat in the ring, gasping for air. The bell ringing over and over, but the war wasn't done. Evil Dos stepped into the ring, book open, chanting louder now, and then Tigre Dos grabbed the book and tore out the final page. "No more tricks," Tigre said. "No more puppets." He threw it to the ground. The book caught fire midair. The lights exploded and the arena went dark. Flames danced across the canvas. The Book of Dos smoldered in the center of the ring. Tigre Dos stood frozen, his hand still outstretched from tossing the final page into the crowd. The air was thick with smoke, magic, and the sickly sweet scent of melted turnbuckle pads. Drake, battered and bloodied beneath the mask of death row, dragged himself to his feet, his eyes locked on the twisted fusion of Lenny and Owen, a vessel teetering on the brink. All around them, the cursed crowd howled. Evil Dos hovered near the ropes, his mouth open, summoning some final incantation. The Shadow Club was moments from reclaiming everything: Owen's body, the book's last words, and the soul of wrestling itself. And then a megaphone blared from the rafters. "Stop the match! I have the answer! Also, I am very afraid of heights." Will Chambers rappelled down on what looked like a badly knotted extension cord tied to a lighting truss. He crashed hard into the apron, rolled awkwardly, and popped to his feet like he meant to do that. In his hands, an old sealed envelope, a sticky note attached read simply, "In case of ritualized possession, Coach Terry." He opened it and read aloud, "When one mask holds two faces and a tiger bows to none, only the fallen finisher can bring back the sun." Will looked up breathless. "The answer isn't violence. The answer is release." Drake, wheezing, spat blood. "Will, what the fuck are you saying?" Will pointed at Owen, or whatever he'd become. "Lenny's possession only works if the mask stays on. If Owen gives it up willingly, he breaks the ritual." Lenny snarled, "I am the mask." Will shook his head. "You're a leech!" And then slowly, with the tremble in his fingers, Owen reached up, he gripped the mask, and tore it off. A scream ripped through the ring, not from Owen, but from Lenny's soul itself. Now untethered and howling like a banshee in the free fall, the lights exploded, a vortex of wind and mist spiraled around the ring. Drake stepped forward, and with the last ounce of strength in his body, Drake ripped off his own mask. The death row identity burned away and struck the swirling ghost of Lenny with it. A final blow. The possessed wind died. The fire snuffed out, and Owen collapsed to the ground. The bell rang. Victory, but not peace, because when the smoke cleared, the Shadow Club was gone. All that remained was a single message, spray-painted across the cursed ring. We take what was stolen, the book, the mask, the dojo. Colton stood over the wreckage. They got the book. Ronnie looked around. And Drake's mask. Bang Bang Bennett stared at the cracked bell. They'll be back. Probably during sweeps week. Will turned to Drake. You okay? Drake looked down at Owen, stirring now. Alive, but forever changed. Nah. But we got our boy back. That night, the dojo lights flickered once more. And somewhere far away, in a dim barn, lit by dying bulbs and surrounded by folding chairs, Evil Dose, Tigre Dose, and a swirling, shadowy mist, shaped like Lenny, stood over an altar. The Book of Dose was whole again, and they whispered together, "The trilogy begins."